The whole world is talking. Everyone wants to be heard, to be seen, to prove they are right. But the intelligent don't jump in. They don't need to rush. They sit there, observing, as if they already know what's about to happen. Not because they're indifferent, but because they understand. The more words, the more exposure. They choose silence the way a blacksmith chooses when to strike. Not too soon, not too late, but with precision. Their intelligence doesn't shine. It doesn't need praise. It flows quietly like underground water, like a folded knife hidden in a sleeve. While others chase the spotlight, they look for a weak spot. And when they move, no one has time to react. Because in this noisy world, silence is what makes them stand out. And that makes them dangerous. Part 1. 7 Signs of a Mind That's Not Ordinary. 1. You stay silent while others speak. People talk endlessly. They fear silence like they fear the truth. They use words to fill the void, to soothe themselves. But not you. You sit still. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you don't need to say it. Every time you stay silent, you hear more clearly. You see how people tremble behind the stories they try to make sound good. You don't fight to get a word in. You let them peel back their own masks. You count each furrowed brow, each uneven breath. You're quiet, but you haven't left the game. You're just waiting. Because you know, words are cheap weapons. Silence is the real blade, and you, the one holding it. 2. You see what others are trying to hide. You don't believe in words. They're too easy to fake. You look into the eyes, the pause, the quick glance that seems accidental. You listen to how they breathe after each claim. You don't trust too fast. Not because you're cynical, but because you've been lied to exactly when you trusted most. You've learned. The most dangerous people are the ones who say exactly what others want to hear. You're not swayed by tone. You listen to how they talk about the ones not present. You watch what they repeat, without realizing it. Because truth often slips through the cracks of what seems unimportant. Those who like to control others are always wary of you, because you can't be easily led. You don't need to confront. You just need to stand still and observe. And that alone makes them uneasy, then careless. 3. You're not curious for fun. You're curious for advantage. You're not curious just to know. You're curious to understand deeper than others. Not how does it work, but who made it work this way. You don't ask questions to chat. You ask to open doors others haven't noticed. When a trend rises, people follow. You step back. You look at who's selling it, who's quietly counting the profits. You don't fall for novelty. You crave the structure behind it. You don't look at the cake. You look at the hand that's holding the knife. You're not swept along by the current. You stand against it, calm and cold, because you know the one with the edge isn't the one who knows the most, but the one who sees what others overlook. 4. You never get bored, because your mind never stops moving. People are afraid of silence, afraid of having nothing to do. They turn on music, scroll through their phones, look for something to fill the void. But you're different. You sit alone in a room with no sound and feel that it's enough. A small thought in your mind is enough to unravel a whole chain of ideas. You don't play to kill time. You use time to build maps. Inside your head are paths, strategies, and dead ends to avoid. You see an event happen and notice the structure behind it. You connect things that seem unrelated. You're not lazy, you're busy. Busy noticing what others ignore, and when they slump from boredom, You're already 3 steps ahead, carried by your own stillness. 5. You don't need anyone to know you're smart. You don't need anyone to recognize your brilliance. You don't need to stand in the crowd to earn applause. When people speak wrongly, you don't correct them, because you know, arguing only makes them defensive, not smarter. You don't hang your degrees on the wall. You don't need to list how many books you've read, because you understand, the more you say about yourself, the easier you are to read. You let others think you're no threat. You let them step forward, thinking they control the board. Then you shift everything with a single move. You don't win with words. You win by waiting for the right moment. Your sharpness is in how you step back and let them turn their back for you to see clearly. 6. You make others believe it was their idea. You don't argue to win. You just ask the right questions. Your questions don't push. They make people pause, reconsider, and then change their own minds. You don't need to shout to get people to follow you. You just arrange the setting so your path becomes the logical one. They believe they're deciding. But you know, you laid the first brick of that thought. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need credit. You only need what you want to happen. And let others believe they started it. You don't need visible power. You only need silent influence, and that's the kind of power that lasts. 7. You don't react, you calculate. People react out of habit. Someone provokes them, they get angry. Someone hurts them, they scream. Someone betrays them, they fall apart. But you don't do that. You stay quiet. You step back half a step to see the full picture. You don't let emotion guide your hand. You don't rush. You don't need to win immediately. You let others lose control, then trip on their own. You know, the first to lose their temper is the first to lose power. You don't live by emotion. You live in the space between impulse and response. In that space, you make your plan, and when you strike, no one sees it coming. Part 2. When intelligence becomes a burden. Intelligence makes you step outside the crowd, and the crowd doesn't like those who step out of line. They see you as different. They don't understand, so they label you. Cold, distant, arrogant. They don't know. You're just busy thinking about things they haven't seen yet. You're not trying to be distant. You just don't know how to fake closeness. You're not looking for agreement. You're looking for truth. And truth is often lonely. People are afraid of light shining on their dark places. They turn their backs on the one holding the lamp. And sometimes, that person is you. You don't want to be alone, but you accept it. Because between being understood and seeing clearly, you choose the latter. Part 3. 4 strategies for rare intelligence. 1. Accept being misunderstood. There are people who won't listen, no matter how you speak. Not because they don't understand, but because they don't want to. The more you explain, the more they shut down. The more you speak, the more you lose your inner stillness. So stay silent. Not because you've lost, but because it's not worth it. The loneliness you feel is not a punishment. It's a filter. It keeps you away from meaningless conversations, from those who don't see what you see. You don't need to lower yourself just to be near them. You need to stand tall to see your path clearly. Sometimes keeping your altitude means walking alone. And that doesn't make you weaker. It just makes you real. 2. Build a network, not a crowd. You don't need a room full of applause. You need one person who can look you in the eye and say, "That path is wrong." You don't build a crowd, you build a network, small, but deep enough to anchor you. Allies don't have to meet every day. They just don't walk away when you fall silent. You don't need people who make you feel comfortable. You need those who make you think differently, see further, and dig deeper. Some people pull you back simply because they can't keep up. You don't hate them, but you won't keep stopping to explain. You choose to walk with those who understand that silence between two people can also be a conversation, because intelligence doesn't need clapping hands. It needs constant sharpening and a hand that's not afraid to keep you awake. 3. Mastering emotion as a weapon. You don't need to always be kind. You just need to know when to smile. You don't need to bare your whole heart. You just need to show enough to keep others at ease. To you, emotion isn't a wave. It's a blade, kept hidden, only drawn when needed. You don't react by instinct. You choose to respond with purpose. People easily lose themselves in anger, joy, or pain. You don't. You feel all three, but don't let any of them lead you. You don't use emotion to be pitied. You wear it like a jacket, changed with every game. Because you understand, whoever reveals true emotion first loses, and you don't play to lose. You play to stay in control. 4. Turn intelligence into power. You know a lot, but knowing isn't enough. Knowledge must be paired with action, not loud action, but results. You don't learn to dominate conversations. You learn to build what others can't even imagine. Knowledge isn't something to flaunt. It's raw material for you to build your own path. A path with no signs, just your footprints. You don't show others your whole self. You let them guess. And guess wrong. Because by the time they think they understand you, you've already moved on. You don't use intelligence to win debates. You use it to change the board. Quiet, patient, precise. And when you strike, no one knows how long you've been preparing. Conclusion. You are the fox. Now become the lion. You've already been the fox. You saw the trap from afar. You knew when to retreat. Knew when to stay quiet while danger lurked. But dodging alone is not enough. It's time to step forward. Not just to survive, but to lead. The lion doesn't avoid the trap. The lion makes the trapper too afraid to come close. You're sharp enough to read the battlefield. Now it's time to bring your fangs, because if you stay silent, the pretenders will rise. The loud ones will lead the ones who don't think, and the world will lose its way. Not because there aren't smart people, but because the smart ones refuse to speak. It's time for you to not just watch, but to shape. Silence is still your weapon, but action is the real victory.